Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, my name is Jeremy. I'm a game designer. I am going to show you the very first game that I ever made all by myself. Okay, please don't laugh. Huh? So this is one of my very first solo games I've done in 2014. My background is from theatre. So the only thing I know at that time is storytelling. Instinctually, that's the first thing that if you ask me, how can I contribute a game? Yeah, I think I can do a pretty good story. And I use this software called Twine, which is it's like a choice-based program that used to tell like visual novel style stories. And you create all these pictures, you can insert into these choices, and then you sort of tell the story lah. I drew this kind of myself and animated it a little bit just to make it more interesting. So this is the very first game I made. And this is one of the very first games I made with a team, like about a year after that. This is with my ex-colleagues in a game jam, Ludum Dare 35, if I'm not mistaken. I cannot even remember what this game is or what does it do. It's here, I found a picture, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this thing that I made. And this is what I'm working on right now, all the way, like 10 years into the future. And this is Daily Rehearsal, which is a narrative-based game, where you are playing a stage manager who is trying to put on a cursed play. So it's very narrative driven. You see there's a dialogue tree and there's characters to talk to. And it simulates a theater, which, my background, that's where I came from, right? When I started, I'm reminded, when I look at students' projects, when I look at their work, I'm reminded like, wow, back in the day, I used to be, doing the same thing as you guys. And, over the course of 10 years or so, I've learned a lot of things. I've watched, other students make their games for the first time. I've seen like pitching sessions with, hobbyists making their own games. And I can kind of tell, like, in terms of like what common mistakes students tend to make or new game developers tend to make. So when I say your first game, right, I'm going to explain it in this context, okay? So not to say like first game means first game ever, right? It's just like, okay, because you guys are, you're in UW, you guys are doing your FYPs. So this is your first FYP, you will pitch this game a lot, whatever this game that you're making. And you'll be showcasing this game a lot. You will set up booths, you put up laptops, and people will walk around and look at different products and say, hey, oh, look at this game, do I want to check it out? So when I talk about your first game, I'm talking about this context. Everything I say here today is not a hard and fast rule. You have limited time and resources. You will usually present this on some kind of platform, like a stage or like a pitching session. And you have to fight for attention with other games, your friends in different classes, your friends from other schools or other hobbies and things like that. Remember to scope small. You will pitch this a lot, so therefore it needs to appeal to a big general audience. And your game needs to be engaging despite having a lot of distractions, because you're playing in an event and people would come and go, and if you cannot hold their attention, they're going to walk away. I want to break down the things that you need to know into two main categories. What is the hook and what is the fun? I know this is like, I know you've heard this before. In a very general sense, hook means that does it pull people into playing it, and does it keep people playing it in terms of fun? In the very simple terms, because if you say what is the game of your hook, what is the hook of your game, right? There's a lot of things to think about, not just like a very surface level stuff. So today I'm just trying to go deeper into these things. The first thing about hook, I want you to consider making the trailer before making the game. So what do I mean by that? The traditional process of making games, right? You will first make the product, right? You have an idea, you have concept, you will try to make the game, and then only after that you look at the footage, and then you look at the mechanics and the expression of it, and then you decide, okay, I think I can make a trailer from this. I'll cut this scene up. I'll focus on this part of the game. I'll edit some text, I'll put some effects, and then I'll make a trailer. Things that you do, right? Visual style, you concept the characters, you figure out what your gameplay loop is, and then you come up with the themes of your game, what does it entail. If you really think about it, isn't it quite similar to what making a trailer is? Isn't that what a trailer does? It shows the visual style of the game, it shows the gameplay loops, it also shows the theme of the game. A 30-second trailer, 1-minute trailer, that's what the trailer is also doing, right? It's not very different from what you are doing from making a game. Creating a trailer, what does a trailer do? What is the function? It creates hype and excitement. It sells the game. It establishes the vision. If you have an idea of what the trailer of your game is going to be before you even make the game, it builds up sort of like an internal hype. Yes, correct. Because I think there is a lot of difference if your team is hyped about making the game and your team is just doing an FYP project, if you know what I mean, right? If you're doing a project, you're just trying to get grades, you're just trying to get through class. the product will not feel fun. But if your team is hyped about the game that you're making, the game will be hyped and therefore will automatically translate to a better product, a better project, a better result, right? So it sells the game, establish the vision, and also sort of like establishes, what are we trying to achieve, right? Rather than just talking about it, somebody might say, wow, this game should be, chaotic. Somebody might think chaotic as like, chaotic means it's messy or what. Some people might think chaotic as like, oh wow, that means there's a lot of surprises and there's a lot of confusion there. So by having a quote-unquote trailer in your head, you can sort of like establish the what you're trying to do, right? Another function of the trailer is like, the trailer sort of like condenses what is really, really fun. You make a game and then you think, okay, I have this game, I have this character, I want to tell this story. Okay, now I have the tutorial, and then I have a level 1, and then I have a level 2, and then level 3, and so on and so forth. And sometimes when I play a game made by a student or a new developer, I will say, oh, that's pretty cool. I just wish that it had this one other thing. Oh yeah, we do. It's in level 3. And I'm like, man, why do you put it in level 3? Why not put it in level 1? So a common trap students tend to fall under is they want to build the game up. They want to establish the setting. They want to establish the character. They want to establish this, right? Why not front load your game? Why not put everything to the front, right? Like in your trailers. What does a trailer do? The trailer will look at your game and so like pick all the fun moments and put it into a 1 minute, 30-second video, right? Why not do the same thing for your game? Why not just take all the fun bits and just put it in the front? It does not mean that is your game. You're making an FYP, remember. This is not like, you're of course encouraged to look at this as like a product and sell it and pitch it, present it to people as if it's like a final product, but it's not really a hard and fast rule, right? Just put everything in the front. If you have all these mechanics that you want to do, and funny enough, it's there already. Like some projects I see, oh yeah, it's there in level 3. It's in the game already. It's somewhere there. It's just got to bring it to the front, right? So why not front load your game like in your trailers? Okay, don't wait until you reach chapter 3 or it gets good after the first level, like that meme of like, oh, it gets good after 80 hours, don't be like that. Just put it in the very front and center, So why not think about making a trailer before making a game? If you want to pitch to your audience, on stage, the trailer would really help. And having a good trailer really, really shortcuts the process. Like setting your game on the booth, of course. If somebody was to just, man, I only got 10 minutes to play your game, in that 10 minutes, they already see like 80 or 90% of the game. It's way more effective than like in that 10 minutes, they only see like 20% of your game. It definitely would drive up a little bit more hype because they've seen all these things, right? This segment, there is a whole video about this by this particular GDC talk. Go online, look through it. This talk explains whatever I just tell you about in a bit better detail, but also from a marketing perspective. Okay, cool. Next. Appeal to the fantasy and feelings. Again, very, very, very simple word. You're making a game, right? It should appeal to people. It should make people feel good. So what is exactly appeal? Now, I put on all these games right now. Okay, you don't have to tell me. You look at it, you sort of internalize it. What about these games appeal to you? Now, some of you might have played these games, some of you might have not. But I want you to really think about it and sort of like challenge what I'm about to say next, in that sense. So you have Animal Crossing, you have Elden Ring, you have Valorant, and you have Baldur's Gate 3. So what is appealing? What is appealing about these games? A very common term I tend to see students use. Not just students, but even like other game companies as well. They like to use the word target audience. This is not a bad word. This is actually a good way to think about this game. A lot of people think target audience as people who like. So people who like casual games, they talk about genre. People who like food talk about objects. People who like hiking talk about activity. People who like Overcooked, they talk about other games. This is the target audience that I tend to see a lot. People will see this game as, what is the appealing thing about this game? Animal Crossing is about cozy town building and management. Elden Ring is about dark fantasy exploration and combat. Valorant is about tactical shooting with superpowers. Baldur's Gate 3 is an RPG with almost complete freedom. So these are the appeal that people will take from it. And people would look at these games from a very, very big picture perspective, and they look at Animal Crossing and they think cozy town building and management. Not a wrong thing to take away from it, but there's so many things about the game that it is appealing that you might not realize. Appeal goes beyond genre, it goes beyond activity, it goes beyond game, it goes beyond objects. Now, I want to bring down a little bit and just look at a little bit more indie scale. What is the appeal of these games? Okay, these are I think relatively successful indie games. One of them you have TCG Card Shop Simulator, made by a Malaysian, by the way. Undertale, you have Phasmophobia, and you have Among Us. All right, what is the appeal of these games? They might not have the best graphics or the sound design or even like really like solid and robust game mechanics, right? Scaled down compared to the AAA games that we've just seen. There's some jankiness to it. There's some quirkiness to it that is not exactly super polished, but they are very appealing. And why is that? TCG Card Shop Simulator is running a card shop, right? This Undertale is, you can do a run where you don't have to kill any particular monsters. Phasmophobia is about being a ghost hunting team. Among Us is hunting down a friend that has turned into a monster. So what is appealing of this game? Suddenly it transcends mechanics, it transcends genre, it transcends activities, right? It's a fantasy. The fantasy of running in the shop, the fantasy of I can play an RPG without killing anyone. The fantasy of hunting ghosts with my friend, the fantasy of who is the killer among us. So what is the appeal of this game, Card Shop Simulator? These are all the mechanics that you can see in the card shop. This is just not I run a card shop, I pay money, you can go, but there's a lot of other things that you can do in the game as well. You can plan your layout, you can sort inventory, but you can also crack cards to look for valuable cards. You can also bundle low value cards for resale. The entire fantasy of running a shop is encompassed in this particular game. And this game is no longer about this game appeals. This game is for people who likes card games. It's now it's a fantasy that you're trying to sell. And when people look at this game, right, they want to know wow, I can do this? Wow, I can do that? There's a mechanic that you can take deodorant and spray onto smelly shop attendees. That's such a very specific thing that is true, So that mechanic is in the game. So does it have anything to do with running a card shop? Referencing something that's happened before, and you get to play that fantasy, right? What is the appeal of Peak? I'm going to talk about this game a lot more because I've been playing this game quite a bit, so it's very fresh in my head. So what is the appeal of Peak, right? So these are all the Peak mechanics. So going on a trip with friends, survival by foraging and managing hunger and energy, climbing tropes like grappling, grabbing people's hands, boosting, using ropes. The food are granola bars and trail mix. These are food that you pack while going on a hike, while going on a climb, right? So it is not just a game about climbing, it encompasses the entire fantasy of the trip itself. I'm going to a trip with my friends, and then we had an accident, and then now we have to survive in the wilderness by climbing, and there's ropes, and then you can't reach here, let me pull you up. Hey, you cannot reach that thing, let me boost you up. These are mechanics that in the game that simulates that. It encompasses the fantasy of climbing, not just climbing itself, right? I want to go even smaller. I want to scope even down. What is the appeal of minimalist games? I know some teams might not have an artist, or some teams might not have an entire the full selection of role of a designer, a programmer, and artist, right? Some is just solo developing as a programmer, some is just designer and programmer, maybe some are artists but programmer but no designer, and they have to make a lot of compromises, right? So what about minimalist games? So this is reference from this particular video from Juniper Dev, Make Tiny Games on YouTube. So she's talking about making tiny games, really, really small games, and this is one of the prototype that she made. By the way, just for context, this game, you need to match the color of your character to the floor so that you can stand on it. If it doesn't match, you just face through it and fall down. Now, how do you make this appealing? They're just squares, right? So one of the tricks that she does is that she just take every pixel and just put 4 dots at the corner. This is the editor that she used. So she just put 4 dots in the corner, and now suddenly the game it's the same game. It's literally the same thing with 4 additional dots, and suddenly it's a little bit more appealing. Okay, I hope it does. It looks appealing to me. I hope it does, and I'll explain why later. I'll talk about another example. This game is called Thomas Was Alone. It is a minimalist puzzle platformer made in 2012. It was very big at the time because it was it sort of kickstarted the whole minimalist approach to game design, game development. How do you make the appeal of this game, right? I kid you not, this is how it looks like, and you're just controlling squares, jumping over platforms, and going through obstacles. All the characters are abstract shapes. How do you make it appealing? He named them. The developer named these boxes, and he gave them different properties that sort of help with the puzzle element, help with the platforming element. John is long and thin, therefore he can jump higher than normal. Thomas is the main character, so he's the most basic one. He's the standard block. Chris is short, so he's kind of like Thomas, but he can go under shorter obstacles. Laura is flat. She cannot jump very well, but she's very bouncy. So you can use her as like a trampoline to jump off of particular places. Claire can float on this, you see this, there's this like water, right? Claire can float on this water so that people can hop on her and go to the next part. They name it, and in this story there's like voiceover, they name these boxes, and these abstract shapes represent what they can do as well. They're tall, they jump really high. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're trying to like humanize them a little bit, okay? Giving them a bit more rounded shape, giving them like personality, and also represents in the game mechanics as well. Even minimalist games can be appealing. Encapsulates the feeling, expression, and the fantasy of the experience. Appeal is not really about this game looks nice. Wow, the animation looks sick. Your character looks cool. That's not really appeal. The appeal is the fantasy and the expression and the experience. And if I really have to boil it down to the word, is what do people feel when they look at your game? Which brings to my next point, game feel. If I talk about appeal is like the hook, right? You look at the game and you're drawn to it for whatever reason because it sells you on a particular fantasy, right? And I talk about feelings a lot. And I want to go to the next line, which is the fun element now, game feel. A game is made with software, with code, but a game is not really software. Software has functions, they do a particular task and they're done. A game can incite emotions, a game can pull people in, a game can engage, right? So what is game feel? There is a tendency for students to focus too much on adding mechanics, complexity, and content. A big source of enjoyment can also come from the act of playing itself, but not engaging with the game. So what do I mean by this? Before it is a game, try to think of it as you're making a toy. So this is a toy of Ultraman. Just imagine you're holding this in your hand. How does it feel to play it? I can maybe move his arms like straight, I can twist his waist, but that's about it. Let's look at this other Ultraman toy. How does it feel? Oh wow, there's more articulation. Oh my god, I can pose him like in the show. It looks a bit more active. It feels a little bit nicer to play. It feels stiff. This one feels nice to pose. This toy that you're holding, it's not really a game, right? Like there's nothing that there's no objective or challenge or anything like that. But it feels nice. Hey, I can do poses. Oh, look at him, I'm doing this beam pose. Oh, look at him, I'm punching a monster. That feeling of fun, there is fun there. This is peak, okay? The game. The game has goals. That means you have to climb to the very top. The game has obstacles, which is the mountain itself. The game has mechanics, climbing mechanics, stamina, hunger, weight, all those things that you have to manage. Now, I want you to think about peak as the toy. Before you play peak, where do you load? Into this airport, right? What can you do in this airport? You can climb, you can emote, you can change your character expression, you can change your costume, but there's no goal, there's no game. I want you to, those who play Peak, right, how long do you spend in this area? 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Any other time? Any other longer? 10 minutes? Peak the toy, as in like when you're placed in this level. There's a reason why they put a mirror here. There is a reason why there is a climbing construct behind you that you can play around with the mechanics, climb the rope, and in a sense, learn the mechanics. And you can grab, and you can boost, you can do all these things, right? Just walking, expressing, climbing around this area feels fun. 20 minutes is not nothing, okay? 20 minutes is a long time to engage with a game that has no goals, there is no real danger, there is no nothing. Like just picking your expressions itself, just dancing around, just sort of like, I saw somebody do this. How often have you, hey, high five. It's fun. Those who didn't play it, you might think I'm crazy, right? But it's fun. It's really fun. Looking at your ground, you see your little legs there. Like when you use the in-game voice proximity chat, you see the character's mouth move. Blah, 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 blah. You can change your expressions. It's really fun to just be in this place. Game feel in smaller games. Now look, I have these 3 examples from the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam from 2024. I want you to look at these 3 examples that I put here. I picked this game jam because it is a bit closer to what you guys are doing with the time and the experience and the resource that you have. So how do you add game feel into your games? I'm going to let this loop, but I'm just going to talk through the examples, okay? So the first one is there's this green ball that you can sort of like blow up and expand, okay? It's a physics-based puzzle game where you need to kind of like balloon yourself up to propel yourself higher to jump through different platforms, and you can sort of like bounce off the walls and the game reacts like that. You want to make a platformer. Don't just make it run and jump and land like that. Having that experience of like ballooning up and shrinking, ballooning up and shrinking, that should feel fun to play already. The second example is the Russian doll thing. I can't remember what is it called. This Russian doll thing where you can open up and there's a little doll, and you open up, it's a little doll. Now you cannot really see here very well, but there's a subtle animation of like, it just popping up, boop, and then it just walks, like that. The fantasy and the experience of like controlling these dolls, like opening them up should feel like, oh, I'm opening. It shouldn't feel like robotic, as in like, oh, it just opens. It should just has this pop feeling. Boop. The last one is this balloon game where it's like you have to pump yourself full of air to balloon. That little expression of like going to these points to pump and fill up the character with air should feel fun already. That should feel like a bit more engaging to play. The sensation of interacting with a game, the tactile feeling, audio visual feedback, and how the game responds to the player input. I think you want to think about these kind of things before you even think about like adding more levels, adding more mechanics, because sometimes what people tend to do is they make a character, oh, this character can jump, the jump works, let's move on to the next thing, rather than thinking about, does it feel nice to make this character jump? The last thing I want to talk about is, it is more than a series of tasks. If I were to expand on this question a little bit more, I would ask, what is really a game? Okay, I know we're making games, what is a game? It's such a philosophical question that I don't know if you guys know the answer to, but really, really think about what is a game? What is fun? What is engagement? For students to focus on increasing player activity to incite more fun. People think, if I add more levels, it will be more fun. Oh, if I add more mechanics, it will be fun. More levels, more characters, more powers, more story, more this, more that. Then my game will be fun. There's also a tendency for students to misinterpret the gameplay loop when you're making games, right? People think, oh, there's a challenge, there's an action, and there's a reward. And they say, okay, in this platformer, you can jump, and then there's spikes, then you can step on enemies, and then you can get coins, and then these coins will get scores, which you can buy more power up, which you can then go through more challenges and so on. Yes, that is a gameplay loop, right? Like essentially. But people will just end it right there. That's it. That's the gameplay loop. I have a game, and this game is fun. This game is engaging. This is what people tend to think of like a gameplay loop or Super Mario in that sense. Run along, you avoid or kill enemies, and then you go rescue the princess at the end, right? But the game as a context, it also interacts with other elements of the game. There's secret levels, there's different powers, there's different bosses, there's different kind of traps, and there's different kind of characters that you can meet. In this game, that is all I'm doing, and therefore that is the gameplay loop. And they forget about all the other elements that they're interacting with. Now, I'm going back to Peak. Again, I play this game a lot, so it's a bit fresh on my mind. If somebody were to create a game like Peak, if somebody were to pitch a game like Peak from an FYP point of view, from the student point of view, they will say, oh, okay, this game has this mountain that you can climb, there is these mechanics that you can do, and of course, when you reach the peak, you reach the high end, and then you get rewards, you get badges, and you get cosmetics in a sense. So you can climb, you survive, and then there's badges and there's cosmetics. They will have this, and then they'll be like, that's the game. This is a talk from GDC 2018. Sid Meier's interesting decision. If you ask, what is a game? I personally use this particular definition because it helps me the most. There's also other definitions out there, but this is what helps me the most, so I'm going to use this for today. A game is a series of interesting decisions. This guy talks for an hour about what that means, so I think you guys can refer to this talk if you want to know more. But it is a series of interesting decisions, right? What is the interesting decisions when it comes to playing Peak? If I carry my climbing tools, I can't carry food and meds. There is a safe and steady, safe and long journey, but it's a short but riskier path. Some of the mechanics in the game might be like, oh, I get a burst of energy when I get this, but I get sleepy when I use. So it's like, I get to get past a very difficult obstacle, but I'm going to slow down the entire team, if I were to do this, These are the interesting decisions that comes from the game, and it stems from the only mechanic that is driving everything else, which is the stamina. The stamina informs all of these other mechanics, and the stamina creates this series of decisions that you can make. I'm just putting up a theoretical scenario here, right? A person who might come up with a game like Peak from a student perspective, they might not add this stamina thing. All right, that is I'm just constructing a fictional scenario here. But if I were to think about all the games I've seen, that is usually the case. There's something missing about the game that forces players to make interesting decisions, and this is like And this decision piles on, right? There's achievement items for less chance of survival. Do I ditch my backpack to help or carry a friend, or do I, ditch my friend to carry the backpack, which has survival things? Do we all climb safe together, or do we stack one person? Put all the resource into this one person, let this person zoom up, and then slowly build the path down to the friends. There's a lot of decisions to be made, and it all comes from the stamina mechanic. The stamina mechanic is the one that creates all of these interesting moments, right? The gameplay loop now becomes like a little bit more filled with interesting choices. You might see climb, survive, and reward, but the climbing itself, there is a little mini loop that you can think about. You pick the route, overcome different obstacles, and then you reach the camp. That climb alone has its own little mini loop. Survival has its own mini loop, which is fighting the hunger, managing weight, and also managing inventory. That's what I'm trying to say. Badges and cosmetics, right? Do you want get achievement items to bring on the mountain challenge so you can get more rewards? Each of these elements has a little system within itself that forces players to make interesting decisions already. So rather than a game about climbing, there's all these other things to think about within the main loop itself, and then in each section there's a little thing that you can think about. If you look at what I covered today, there's 2 points of view, hook and fun. Does it pull people into playing it? And fun, does it keep people playing it? These are the things I covered. Trailer first, game later. Appeal to people's fantasy. Don't neglect the game feel. And a game is a series of interesting decisions, not just a series of tasks that you do. So if you enjoy what you see here, please connect with me. If you want me to give more talks, please contact me. I can arrange. I also give free game design coaching. Yes, it's free with some terms and conditions. Thank you. That's all. All right. Thanks.